trying not to get like killed or something.
Help to establish a new government just where women will be all in control, and I just probably like be an advisor, I guess.
What, destroy sperm banks, probably?
I would be kind of scared of, you know, what's gonna happen to me, you know, I mean.
Most likely try to find a safe zone.
I try to make sure, I guess, that I'm the last guy on Earth.
Wait, you're not a man.
Who says I'm not a man?
I'm gonna have all those bitches to myself, Holmes. I'm gonna be able to pick from a pack of them, you know. It's gonna be like a nice harvest. You know, when I go to the taquero, man, and he's got a lot of choices, or the raspados, man, and you know, I'm like, hey, give me that syrup right there. Yeah, put that all on there.
So what would you do if you were the last man on Earth and all the men died? Or women? What would you do if all the men mysteriously died and you were stuck with this guy over here? Yeah, weird. But interesting concept though, right? I think in general most of us will probably end up doing something a little bit like this. Hey girl, I'm the last man on Earth. How about we head over to my place and repopulate it? But if you're like me, it would go a little bit something like this. Why the Last Man deals with that concept about being the last man on Earth when all the men have mysteriously died. And to be honest, I've never really even heard about this comic. It wasn't until Professor Hatfield actually passed that comic book around one time in class, and glancing over it, I just completely fell in love with this comic. At first, when you try to explain the story to someone, they might take a little bit of sexist. They might probably be like, oh, so since, you know, all the men died, the whole world has to go crazy because women can't handle it? Well, that's not the case, actually. If you take into consideration, most of the jobs we have here are done by men. It's not that women can't do them, it's just that they're done by men. So take away that aspect, and you tend to have a bit of chaos. It's kind of like The Walking Dead, except there's no zombies. Why the Last Man isn't trying to be sexist, it's just trying to tell a story about a man trying to survive. York, the main character of this story, isn't your typical badass character like Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead. He's just your average dude, or as he would like to call it, escape artist, trying to get to his girlfriend. He doesn't really care that he's the last man, he just wants to be with the one he really loves. Another thing I liked about this comic was the art cover. Each of these issues, as you can see, has a really beautifully drawn art cover. It kind of gives it that realistic look. You know that saying they say, don't judge a book by its cover? Well, I kind of did with this comic, and let me tell you, it kind of does pay off. But not only the cover of these issues, but inside as well. Each panel has a really detailed coloring to it, which I really enjoyed. As we saw in Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics The Invisible Art, it explains something about panel-to-panel transitions. And while reading these comics, I noticed that it incorporated all of these things that Scott McCloud talked about. We can see movement to movement, action to action, subject to subject, scene to scene. The panels in these issues were really linear and easy to read, which I really enjoyed about these issues. They weren't like a DC comic or a Marvel comic where sometimes the panels kind of get a little hectic from time to time. Something I also noticed about reading these issues was the essence of time. Kind of like how we saw with the Secret Science Alliance, where time was always that ever-presence looming in each of these panels. Each panel you read kind of gave you that sense of urgency, that rush. Like you wanted to yell at the hero to hurry up, the bad guys were coming. And that's something we could see throughout this whole issue. I haven't finished the issues. I've only read 1 through 10, and they've already been done for a while, so I'm really excited to finish up and see what happens to York. So go to your nearest comic book store and pick up Y, the Last Man, and enjoy the story of York, the last man on Earth.